When life keeps hitting you hard, me boys, keep hauling, and your woes just seem to outweigh your joys. Keep hauling, boys, when love just seems so far away.
We called the festival Meridian because a meridian is an imaginary line that links places around the globe. And we had the idea that we wanted to link our community here, our church here, into other cultures. And we did it through music and storytelling because these are art forms that transcend boundaries and borders.
When you're guiding stars in cloudy skies, keep hauling, you'll find your way to a bright sunrise. Keep hauling, boys.
The part of the weekend was a Celtic harp concert by Sarah Dear-Jones, who runs the Cornwall Harp Centre. And then as an extra, she offered workshops for people to actually have a go at playing the harp. So I had a storyteller called Liz Berg, who comes from the Jewish culture and lives in Cornwall, and she told some traditional stories from the sea, pirates and ships and so on. Our festival was part of a bigger event going on in Plymouth, which is the Ocean City Festival, and so we had a sea theme throughout. We also tied our usual 11 o'clock Sunday service into the festival, and because we're close to the International Day of Peace, which is on the 21st of September, we did a special service for that, and that was lovely because lots of people who had attended events over the weekend also came to that service, which was great. We also had a couple of storytelling workshops, one led by Bev Murden, who used to be the director of Plymouth Centre for Faiths and Cultural Diversity, and another one led by Abby Allo, who's an amazing storyteller who comes from a West African culture.
They were there, shivering, crying, thinking their world has come to an end, until the tortoise came up and said, "I'll go first." "Oh, you? Why are you all surprised? Oh, you've never volunteered for anything. Shh! He volunteered. Thank you very much, tortoise. We're very grateful to you. We will look after your wife and child, well, at least until it's their turn to go." "Oh, shush," said the tortoise. "I've volunteered to go and I'll go to him. Can everybody go home now?" "Yes." "Oh, isn't he so kind?" "Yeah, he is." Ooh. And so the one-eyed lion stayed on the mountain, pacing around the following day, waiting for his food. I want to tell you a tiny little story. It was many years ago. A writing professor was invited to a huge university in New York University, and you know how it is when they invite these gurus and people just turn up. The whole place was packed, and the professor was there to share his wealth of experience on how you can write and write well. And so everybody was there, paper in hand, listening to the prof. And the professor came in and he said to them, "Yeah, what do writers do?" And somebody said, innocently, just wanting to impress the professor, "Excuse me." "Yes, my love," he said. "Writers write." "Yes," said the professor, "writers write. So what are you all doing here? Get out there and start writing." He picked his bag and walked out. Ooh. So I thought about that and I thought, what do storytellers do? They tell stories, so what are we all sitting here doing? Let's get on the street and tell stories. Today is about exploring ways in which a storyteller can engage with their audience. I was raised with stories, and I've been telling stories since I was and began telling it professionally after I have 4 children, and they grew up on storytelling as well. So I decided to share that gift with the community, my immediate community, and now storytelling is taking me around the world. I found out that storytellers love it when their audience are able to retell their stories or to remember their stories. So from there, I concluded that most storytellers would love it when they can engage with their audience. But mostly, storytelling is always about sharing stories, connecting with audience. How do we do that? Eye contact is key. One of the things that I tell my students the very first class is please try to maintain eye contact. It is difficult. Body language is key. I was working with a group of people and I asked the question, I said, do we really need to use our bodies? And everybody said, well, nearly everybody, and one person said, I don't think so. So we said, let's put it to test. Let's share the story of how you came here, from home to here, what happened without even moving a finger. And it was difficult. We said, if you as much as move your finger, we'll clap. It was horrendous. It was absolutely nerve-wracking. So we concluded that it's good because naturally we are movers. Voice, very, very crucial. So I could stand up and say, it seems as if you guys saw my notes anyway. Brilliant. So I can come here and I want to tell you what happened 2 weeks ago. So I woke up in the morning and I went out of my door, and before I got into my car, I saw a huge snake, and the snake hissed, and I was very scared, and I cried a lot, and somebody came out with a stick and just hit the snake, and it sizzled its way out of my sight. And then I went back to the house, got my car keys, and I went to work. I can't see you applauding because she said totally unbelievable. Why? Because it was all monotonic and just in a plateau and no passion. But if I came here and I said to you, I came out of my house in the morning, I didn't know there was something that's going to happen, and you're going, what is going to happen? So as I stepped out, I saw a huge snake, and it hissed. I screamed, and when I rushed out of that place, my neighbor came with a stick, and he said, Abby, you hold on, I'm going to deal with it. Ha! He killed the snake. Oh, I said, thank you very much. Then I went indoors, really tired, because that was very scary. Got my car keys, and off I went to work, happy that the snake was out of sight. Did you notice my voice? So it was not in a plane. As the excitement mounted, I raised my voice. So you have pitch and you have pace. So that's how you use your voice in a convincing way to tell your story at any time for people to believe. Now you believe me? Yeah, good. So what else?
Enthusiasm coming through, isn't it?
Yes.
Through dance
or movement, yeah, or anything. Some people use the stage. Some people use props. I don't use props because I would be very unconvincing if I use props. Some people use props and they use it very well. I don't. I use my voice, I use my body, and I use different things. But some people will perch. I see some fantastic storytellers who perch on the side of the table and tell amazing stories without using the stage. But they use their voice, and they use their eyes, and they use every other thing. So we just need to find out what is good for us. So that's what I always say. Practice is what makes perfection, isn't it what they say? So we practice, we have children. I tried, they were my guinea pigs when they were young. Any story that they yawn halfway through, I knew he wasn't getting out of the house. When I get their attention and they listen, this story is going places. So I tell to children, and then I started telling in schools all around. So voice, body language, eye contact, movement, very crucial to storytelling. I love trickster tales. Why do I love trickster tales? The West African trickster is the tortoise. In the West, we don't know a lot about the tortoise. We know about Anansi the spider, we know the fox, but we don't know a lot about the tortoise, so I decided to immortalize him in a book. So there are stories, if you want, it's on sale today. Some people think it's only very young children that enjoy repetition, but I do, even as an adult. I don't know about you. Repetition reinforces either the message or the story in our minds. What I was sharing earlier was that storytellers love it when their audience remember their story. What's the point anyway, like you were saying? What's the point if we share stories and nobody remembers? So some people, you know, one of the things I wanted to add to your answers when I was saying, why do we need to engage our audience? One of the things I wanted to add was that we live in a world where people have seen film tricks. They have seen people jump down from burning houses, you know, in films. They've been engaged. They have been entertained. And now you're coming as a storyteller. How are you going to engage them, you know? So if I go into a school or a group of adults and I want to tell a story and I want them to engage with me, how do I do that successfully? If I just come and, and then I went and I went and I came and I went and I came, it won't be memorable. So one of the things I always love is for my audience to leave that place of storytelling and remember the story and maybe able to retell that story. So repetition helps to reinforce that. Thank you very much. You were going to say something?
Well, it was just a moral. It's the moral to the story. So therefore, if you put animals in place of human beings, people tend to listen more because they don't see themselves in there. They see the animal.
That's brilliant.
So they sort of
they
put their self-concept into the animal.
That's amazing. I never even saw it that way because one of the forms of storytelling is fables. We have other forms, don't we? We have fairy tale, we have folk tales, we have myths, we have legends, but fables are the ones where animals behave like humans, isn't it? And the moral also helps because what you said was people may not see themselves, but they understand what message is coming through that. Style also matters depending on your audience. So if you're planning to tell stories, like many of you have said, you want to engage your audience more, style is also good. When the first time they invited me to tell stories to a group of teenagers, I nearly said no. Because, you know, that age, they are too cool for storytelling, they think. Until I decided, why don't I use this form called dilemma tales? For example, once upon a time, there was a man who lived in a village. He was a thief. He stole things. He just stole. And at some point, the villagers had had enough. So the chief called him one Friday and said, listen, you're out of here. If you don't leave this village by the first cock crow, you will be bundled up. Oh, okay. So this man got his meager things together. He had a lion, a goat, a piece of yam, but he had this tiny canoe. When he got to the river, he found out that the canoe can only carry one thing at a time. I can see some of you smiling because you know where I'm going with this. So what should he do? Let's have the answers to this. What have you come up with, sir?
Well, it goes a bit like this. It's confusing. I'm not quite sure. But I think he takes the goat across first.
The goat across first?
Yes, he takes the goat across first. Leaves the lion and the yam.
Okay.
And then he goes back and picks up the lion.
Yep.
And takes the lion across.
Okay.
And then picks up the goat.
Okay.
And takes the goat back to where he started.
Okay.
And then he takes the yam across and leaves the lion and the yam. It's complicated, isn't it?
Yep.
And then he goes back and gets the goat.
Yeah.
There you go. It's just about thinking outside the box, isn't it? Because it took a while, didn't it? But at least all things are possible. Because one of the things you may think is, how does it do that? But we don't think that, it could actually go back with the other animal. Yes. Because I didn't give you that brief to say you can go, but you can. So one of the things I do is dilemma tales. There is no hard and fast rule to storytelling. I use it's a mnemonic when I want to talk about storytelling, how to engage my audience. I use a mnemonic and I call it SLEPT. as in sleep. The reason was because when this book came out first, the first edition, the first edition had a CD with it. And that CD, I did that CD just to get people to do happy, clappy song with the stories. And somebody said, oh, I listened to your CD. Oh, and I slept. I'm thinking, that wasn't the intention. Thank you anyway. So it hit me that many people still look at storytelling as bedtime stories. So I thought, oh, okay. So I gave it slept. So when I'm preparing for a story, the first thing I want to do is to search for an appropriate story. I know it's like, yeah, I mean, that's common sense. But the first question I ask when people invite me to tell story, who is my audience, age group, and do you have a theme or a title? For example, this is part of the Plymouth Ocean Festival. So I went thinking about the ocean. What do we find in the ocean? What do people do in it? And I thought, friends meeting by the riverbank and all that. So we search for an appropriate story. Brilliant. What's the next in my mnemonic? The L. Then we begin to learn our stories. I think somebody said about being, I think you said about being able to do the oral tradition instead of reading from a book. So the difference between a storyteller, and I think you said that as well, that you're more of a writer than. So the difference between a storyteller and a story reader is the book. And so my audience never see me hold a book. So where is it coming from? Oh, here. How do you do that? You learn your story. How do you learn? You know, some people say I repeat the stories to myself.
Pictures, little pictures.
Little pictures. Or you just grab somebody, tell them, you're coming to listen to this story, I'll buy you a drink. And they'll listen. And the next thing is the E. What do we do with the E? We earnestly engage with our stories. Earnestly. If you don't believe your story, nobody will believe you. And so that's one of the things that help us to be able to tell. Telling happens anywhere. On the stage or to friends. You tell people stories and you want them to be convinced, to suspend disbelief. You would have earnestly engaged. So you can be a lay preacher. You want to inject storytelling into your sermon to make it more engaging. Everybody tells stories 24/7. Even when we sleep, we tell stories. Don't you dream? We all dream. We may be passive observers or active participants. Sometimes you see yourself dancing in the dream. So storytelling happens every minute of the day. What's the next one on our mnemonics? P. What do we do with the P? We practice. Some people confuse learning with practice. No. Learning, little pictures, repetition. But how about practice? Sometimes you stand in front of a mirror if you don't have an audience. You watch yourself speak. And then the telling. The telling is what then incorporates all the things that we've been sharing about our body language, our eye contact, what we do with props, what we do with music. I love West African stories. Well, some people would say, isn't it obvious? That's where you're from. It's not just because of that. The West African storytelling is not very polite as we have here. In England, people listen to storytellers respectfully. I love it. I don't think I would have survived if I was out there. Because people, it's a very noisy one. They acknowledge, yeah. And if you're not telling it right, they can walk you off the stage. And part of telling is to be able to use music. So music is when people they've had a hard day at work, whether in the office or in the farm, and everybody is yawning in the night, you know, when people are maybe around the fire and telling stories. If they don't sing with you, you'll be telling to yourself because people have gone. When I started telling to children, I had to learn fast on my feet because you have these young children. I went to a school. The head teacher said to me, Abby, just do what you can. We'll take them out. I said, no, they'll be fine. These were like primary one, and we had them in our palm for about 45 minutes. They did not budge until one of the teachers said, I think they will need a toilet break. And I said, okay, you can take them. Why? Because the children were singing. They were allowed to sing. So sometimes we get up and we dance and we sing and do everything. And so that gets people engaged. a storyteller can make their stories memorable if we consider some of these points, the ones you've shared and the ones I'm sharing with you. I went to a school in Cornwall, and many years ago, and I did some stories. I'd forgotten about it, but one day, a lady, in my son's school, my last son, he had a friend, and one way or the other, his friend's mom and I began to talk, and she said, I'll come visit. I'll even bring his sister and all that. And so she came with the two children she had. And so my son went to play with his friend, and the little girl, she was about 8. So we were talking about stories, and the girl said, yeah, I know you. So I looked at her mom, I'm thinking, no, I don't. I've never seen her in my life, that she's telling fables. And her mom said, well, she told me she's met you before in her school. And this girl went on to tell me the story of the old woman who lived in a vinegar bottle. And she listened to that story at the age of 4. I was shocked. She was about 4 years, and she told this story and everything, and I remember that class. So that's one of the reasons I then thought about it. What did we do that will make a 4-year-old continue to remember a story, and then she was able to tell it back many years after? It was the moral of the story. The woman was greedy. And then it was the repetition, and it was the song. So for us to be able to engage powerfully with our audience, these things will need to be considered. The preparation for the story, the learning of the story, the practice of the story. Then when you come before the audience, what you do with your story, body language, and everything you've shared. How do you then engage the audience? Maybe with a song. There are rhymes. Sometimes I use rhymes. I went to work with a group of nursery children, and when I got there, I found out that they weren't going to sit down and listen to my stories. So I picked my drum, and we went all around chanting Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And when we did that, we then sat back down, and I began to ask them questions. These are some of the things I thought I would share with you today on how to engage with our audience and how to make our storytelling memorable. I hope it makes sense what we've shared. Once upon a time, there were 3 unusual friends: the elephant, the hippo, and the tortoise. So they were very good friends. In the evening, they'll come to the riverbank after a hard day's work, and they'll just chill and tell stories to themselves. And they'll sing, and then everybody will go home. So they usually come to the riverbank because the hippo lives in the river, so they felt it's easier to just join him. But there was something that the tortoise did not like about his friends. He did not like the fact that they bullied him. They called it friendly banter. And so they'll say, oh, tortoise, that's the elephant. When are you ever going to walk smartly and fast? Look at you. Ooh, ooh. The tortoise said, it's not my fault. That's the way I'm created. Why do you laugh at me so? They continued laughing. One day, they came together to tell stories and to have fun together, and the hippo said, oh, tortoise. Yes, my friend, said the tortoise. Run along now, just get us some fruit. The elephant said, it will take him 3 years. The tortoise had had enough. He was hurting, and they didn't notice. He said to them, listen, a pin may be very, very tiny, but it's not food for the chicken. What? Pin? Chicken? Yeah, duh. It's a proverb. What kind of proverb is that? Said the elephant. Oh, find out, said the tortoise. What I'm saying to you is that I may be slow. I may have this huge shell on my back. But you guys, both of you put together, you're no match for me. Let's get. What do you mean, let's get? That's tug of war, said the tortoise. Tomorrow morning, meet me here. I will pull both of you in a game of rope pulling, and I will demolish your high mountains. Is he joking? No, he's not, said the elephant. He means it. And they laughed him to scorn. You, pull both of us. How are you even going to do that? Well, let's find out. And so they parted ways, and the tortoise said to them, make sure you rest very well. Ha! He laughed and left. The following morning, he woke up early in the morning, and he took the end of the rope to the elephant in the forest. You take this, he said to the elephant. The end of the rope, you take it. I'll go to the other side and I'll pull you. Okay, so the elephant took the rope and he went. Well, he said, when you hear me drumming, make sure you start to pull. All right? Oh, okay. The elephant was still confused. What is he trying to do? And so the tortoise went to the riverbank, and he gave the end of the rope to the hippo. When you hear the drum, pull, and pull with your life. Well, as if your life depends on it. Are you joking? I'm not, because I'll be at the other end pulling you. And so the tortoise went to the middle of the forest, and he began to bash on his drum. Initially, the elephant was just saying, it's just the tortoise, what's it? And then he was being pulled out of the forest, and he thought, what is that tortoise on? So he pulled harder, and the harder he pulled, the further away he was being dragged. So he took it seriously, and he began to pull. The hippo was pulling and wondering, is that not a tiny tortoise? What is going on? And so he pulled. The beast of the forest and the beast of the sea. That was a sight to behold. And so the tortoise was back on the tree, munching on his lettuce, and looking at them, pulling. He said, pull. And they were pulling on both sides, pulling and pulling. And at some point, when it was late afternoon, after they'd been pulling the whole day, the elephant trumpeted and said, I give up, I'm coming. And so the hippo too shouted, I give up. Look, you, whatever you want to call yourself, tortoise, you're the king of the jungle. I don't care. I can't do this anymore. Oh! The tortoise quickly ran down, got a pair of very sharp scissors, and began to hack into the rope. And so by the time the elephant came, and by the time the hippo came, they found him holding two ends of the rope without even a sweat. Oh, said the elephant, it's worse than I thought. What's happening? The tortoise said, what's happening where? The hippo said, you mean you've been pulling us with a hand each? Are you on something? No. I told you, no matter how tiny a pin is, the hen or the chicken, whatever you like, cannot eat it. Should we do another round? No, said the elephant. No, you win. You're the king of the jungle. Call you yourself whatever you like. We give up. We cannot do this anymore. Well, said the tortoise. And how about the so-called friendly banter? Tiny tortoise, slow tortoise. Oh, that ends today. No, we'll never call you names again. No, you win. Well, said the tortoise, should we do this again? No, we give up. And so it was. That he dropped the ropes and he said to them, well, let's have some fun. We can sing. Oh, we're tired. Well, you can't be too tired to sing. Let's sing. Okay, we'll sing. So the three went back to the riverbank, after they had shaken hands and promised the tortoise that they would never make fun of him again, ever, ever, ever. And they began to sing, and here was the song they sang. So, you remember your part? Do you? Fair, cool, fair. And so the three friends renewed their friendship. They decided to respect one another, whether one is slow or one is huge or one is small, short, large, whatever. And they pledged on this song. Ajá dúró ràn mí lẹ́rù, fẹ́rẹ́ kú. Louder. Ajá dúró ràn mí